Oh no! Bye bye. Wonderful!
Don't put Canberra to do that in 5 minutes, okay? Stay put.
Recreation. If you were at all curious about the Earth, you probably wondered why mountains exist. This question has intrigued Earth scientists ever since the emergence of geology as a science in the late 18th century. And the more we learn about mountains and what they're made of, the more fascinating this question becomes. Most mountains are forming today in tectonically active regions, where the movements of plates deform the rocks of the Earth's lithosphere. The tremendous energy that's expended in the mountain building process often has a profound effect on these rocks. The geologic events that accompany mountain building, such as the collision between plates, deep subsidence of portions of the Earth's crust, moving masses of magma, and the displacement of rock bodies along fault zones, help to even these rocks are changing dramatically. This process of change by the effects of heat and pressure is called metamorphism, a term derived from the Greek words meta, change, and morph, meaning form. Metamorphism changes the appearance of rocks, their mineral composition, and even their age, as measured by radiometric dating. During metamorphism, atoms within the rock can dislodge themselves from mineral lattices and move about freely. This atomic reshuffling causes the existing minerals to recrystallize and new minerals to form. This process also resets the radioactive clock within the rock to the time of metamorphism. Metamorphism can result in complex structures and rare minerals that make these some of the most bizarre-looking and strikingly beautiful of all crustal rock. But to a geologist, the real beauty of metamorphic rocks is the information they contain about tectonic processes and Earth history.
Metamorphic rocks can appear in many forms. From platy, black, fine-grained stone, to granite-like layered rock, to the marble used by sculptors. One explanation why a wide variety of metamorphic rocks exists is simply that there are many different sedimentary and igneous rocks, each responding to metamorphic conditions in its own unique way. Geologists use the term protolith to refer to the original rock existing before metamorphism. For example, limestone is the protolith of marble, one of the most common metamorphic rocks. And basalt, a volcanic igneous rock, is the protolith of amphibolite. But geologists have found many more types of metamorphic rocks than protoliths. So factors other than original composition must also play a role in creating these rocks. Study of geologic structures such as folds and faults suggests that there is a wide range of pressures and temperatures inside growing mountain belts. Quite likely, this plays a critical role in explaining variations in metamorphic rocks. Laboratory experiments have helped geologists understand metamorphic conditions.
The conditions under which metamorphism occurs is beneath the level of weathering and sedimentation formed in sedimentary rocks, generally at temperatures of greater than 200 degrees, and at conditions that do not produce a melt such as goes into igneous rocks. So the The range in temperatures are roughly about 200 degrees C to about 800 degrees C. They occur, the process and the formation of the rocks occur at depth, generally from 2 to several tens of kilometers in depth beneath the Earth's surface.
At the surface, we are accustomed to the pressure of the air surrounding us. We don't notice the air because the pressure is equal all over our bodies. Deep underground, however, pressure is not equally applied. Rock can be squeezed strongly with pressure greatest in the direction of the squeezing. Sometimes, opposing pressure can be applied on different parts of a rock, causing it to bend or shear apart like a sliding deck of cards. Whether from shearing or simple squeezing, the rock is experiencing what geologists refer to as directed pressure or directed stress. The structure of many metamorphic rocks is a result of directed pressure. Directed shear stress, for example, helps explain the origin of a spectacular form of crystal growth. These swirling images suggest several things: a cluster of spiral galaxies, the Chinese symbol for yin and yang. They are, in fact, snowball garnets. To the geologist, frozen slices of metamorphism in action. The swirling pattern in a snowball garnet is formed by planes of tiny mineral inclusions that are swallowed up by the garnet as it grows. Shear stress causes the garnet to rotate during growth, distorting the planes into swirls. The three-dimensional form of the swirling pattern can be shown by means of a multi-ringed model. Each ring represents the edge of a plane of minerals incorporated by the growing garnet.
These are the rings. And let's do that process as it goes on so we can visualize it. First we grow a little bit of garnet, then we rotate the ring, we rotate that and grow another ring and rotate it with the ring inside, and we grow another ring and so forth until we develop basically a shape like this, in which we have a little pit over here, a little mound over here, and the diameter of the rotation here. We can compare that with a real specimen, which is over here, and this is a real specimen in which we see the little pit here, the little mound here, and the common axis through here, and it shows a snowball pattern. In the same specimen, we can see a cross-section of a garnet that's growing considerably more than that garnet has, showing that rotation.
Directed stress involving compression helps explain the origin of a very common metamorphic structure. As temperature and pressure increase, minerals recombine to make new, more stable minerals. The minerals grow in the directions of the lowest pressure, perpendicular to the directed stress. This results in a layering, which geologists call foliation. Shear stress, too, can cause foliation.
I'll hold a piece of a metamorphic rock we call a schist, a mica schist, and we can see it's very layered. That layering is a preservation of a stress field generated within a subduction zone environment. As the rock is recrystallized under great pressure and great temperature, it is also recording in it the intensity of the stress field. We see stresses that had to be in some sort of direction to planarize the micas, forming the mica schist.
Foliated rocks are easy enough to spot, but are often taken for granted at some cost.
Oh, no.
Constructing roads, dams, or foundations on such rocks can create severe problems.
The production of foliation within metamorphic rocks gives rise to the same type of structural heterogeneity and weak directions as you find within landslide, for instance, sedimentary rock. So although we consider these basement rocks to be quite stable, in reality schists can be very unstable, Any engineering firms that were wanting to construct either houses or dams or other type of constructions on metamorphic rock has to take into consideration the foliation and the direction of the foliation to make sure that it isn't in an unstable orientation with regards to any engineered works that could be constructed on it.
In addition to directed stress, rising temperature will cause minerals in a metamorphic rock to react, forming new crystal lattices and mineral types. This process, called recrystallization, generally causes minerals to grow larger, developing an interlocking texture resembling that of igneous rocks. For example, when the sedimentary rock limestone is metamorphosed by heat into marble, the fine grains of calcite in the original limestone recrystallize into large calcite crystals, which interlock to give the emerging marble a coarse texture. In some circumstances, the temperature of a deeply buried rock becomes so great, the rock starts melting. When this happens, a rock having both igneous and metamorphic features results. Geologists call these intermediate rock types pegmatites, or mixed rocks. In some pegmatites, geologists find evidence for the origin of one of Earth's most common igneous rocks, granite. Yet another factor may be critical in creating metamorphic rocks. For many years, geologists believed that the overall composition of a rock rarely changes during metamorphism. However, this is no longer assumed to be the case.
The other aspect of metamorphism as a result of these metamorphic reactions is that rocks undergo changes in composition. Mainly, this shows up in the formation of the liberation of H2O and its departure from the rocks. So the rocks dry out in very much the same way that a fired pot dehydrates in a kiln. The main feature of higher temperatures, for example, is to cause the rock to undergo a loss of certain volatile components. And in most metamorphic rocks, that means mainly the loss of H2O and CO2.
Fluids are released not only by metamorphic rocks at high temperatures, but from magmas intruding the metamorphic rocks as well. During mountain building, the crust in many places is saturated with migrating fluids. These accelerate some chemical reactions and may stop others. So, a spectacular diversity of metamorphic rocks is created by the numerous protoliths, the presence of fluid, and the wide range of temperatures and pressures possible within the Earth.
When rocks are exposed to the heat and pressure of metamorphism, they undergo changes both in texture and mineral content. The specific changes that take place depend on a variety of factors, including the composition of the original rock, called the protolith, how much heat and pressure are applied, the length of time of metamorphism, and whether or not water is present. Most metamorphic rocks form in one of two geologic settings. The first is where cold rock is intruded by a hot magma. This is called contact metamorphism, and its effects are confined to a small area. The other setting is at a convergent plate margin, where the motions of the plates generates metamorphic conditions over a wide area, in places covering thousands of square kilometers. This is known as regional metamorphism.
One of the main differences between contact and regional metamorphism is that temperature is the predominant cause of contact metamorphism, whereas regional metamorphism involves both temperature and pressure.
The chemical changes that accompany contact metamorphism, especially in marbles, is seen on this hand-sized sample of a contact. On the left side is an intrusive igneous rock, a tonalite, that came into contact with a limestone. The limestone was heated up, and at the same time it was heated up, there were elements that left, both chemical elements that left the intrusive rock into the marble, and then elements that left the marble and went into the intrusive rock. The material leaving the intrusive rock consisted of some iron, aluminum, and silicon, which went to form garnets, the ground material here. Silica continued in further into the marble rim with the other two elements and resulted in the formation of a layer of the mineral wollastonite, which is a calcium silicate. This is a good example of a well-layered rock produced by regional metamorphism in the so-called amphibolite facings. It consists of alternating layers, the white, of quartzite, and of dark ammica schists bearing the aluminum silicate mineral sillimanite. The first that we think these are relic sedimentary beds, but they are not. They've been structurally transposed from sedimentary beds into tectonically bounded layers. Here you can see two of the biotite-rich layers coming together to constitute a single layer. So there's been a great deal of directed shear pressure through this rock that has produced this well-layered aspect to it.
Metamorphism has been compared to cooking. The dish that you wind up with depends both on your starting ingredients and on the way you cook them. Likewise, laboratory experiments have shown that the composition of rocks changes very little during metamorphism. But as temperature and pressure increase, the atoms within the rock become mobile and recombine to form new minerals. These experiments have also shown that the various metamorphic minerals, or assemblages of minerals found together, form only within specific ranges of temperature and pressure. So geologists can use minerals and metamorphic rocks as pressure gauges and thermometers to understand the conditions under which metamorphism took place. This chart is an example of how minerals are used to interpret them.
All right, shoot.